All right, well, welcome to Atheism versus Logic. I hope you're having a good day or a good morning. And I want to talk to you about the 4 ways that atheists avoid God. Because I've clearly presented undeniable evidence for a creator, and the fact that genes and proteins would have to come about simultaneously in a microscopic membrane, and that these genes and proteins are functional sequences. So nature could never produce one functional gene or one functional protein. And I think the most simple form of life on Earth has about 500 genes. So that's bacteria, that's the prokaryotic cell. So when given undeniable evidence for a creator, not a specific God, but a general creator or creators, this is how atheists avoid God and the belief in God. First one is logical fallacies. Man, it really shocked me. There was a guy that started trying to debunk my videos, and then eventually I was on his show, and the whole time I was making videos about DNA and then how DNA points to a creator. And in his videos, he was talking about logical fallacies. And then I finally got on we did a show together on his channel, and he had no clue what DNA was. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. My whole reason for believing in God is DNA, and you avoid DNA, and all you've talked about is logical fallacies. And so I learned very quickly that atheists avoid the belief in God and the science that points to God by going to logical fallacies. Logical fallacies are important, but here's what you need to know. They call out the argument of incredulity, that, just because you can't imagine something doesn't mean it's not true. And I totally agree. But if we do have a creator, then it would lead to something that we couldn't imagine happening naturally, like genes and proteins forming, right? Nature would never produce a functional gene or protein because nature can never produce functional sequences. That's like you peck, again, the atheist test. Take the atheist test. Blindly peck at a computer with no autocorrect, and you'll see, just do it for 5 minutes, and you'll see that you would never get, even within an eternal amount of time, even if billions of people on every planet in the solar system blindly pecked on a keyboard, they would never get a functional paragraph. So logical fallacies. That is one way that they avoid dealing with the science that points to Jesus. The next one is they call out God of the gaps, that I'm just filling in a gap in science with God, that God did it. And I agree, that a lot, scientists figure out things. So if, for instance, if Christians 100 years ago would say that nature could never produce the building blocks of life, like, well, I don't know when they didn't know about nucleotides and amino acids, but, you take the Miller-Urey experiment, which I do agree with. I do agree amino acids arise naturally. I just don't think that I know that nature can't put it in the right sequence. So what atheists have that's equivalent? They've got accident of the gaps, So when I say that nature can never produce a functional gene or protein, you know what they say? They say, well, accidents did it. It happened by accident. Nature was somehow able to get the nucleotides in the right sequence for functional genes, and nature was able to get proteins in the right sequence for ATP synthase and the proteins in ribosomes. And when we get to the eukaryotic cell, motor proteins. If you can watch videos of ATP synthase and motor proteins and still be an atheist, you have amazing faith in accidents, and the accidents it's accidents of the gaps. Whatever you guys have a gap in science, you try to fill it with accidents, right? Which an accident is just something that it was not done on purpose. There was no mind behind it, right? And then let me tell you what, a godless engineer did a video of one of my videos. He tried to debunk one. And then I posted something on his channel, and he said the gap is small, I think is what he said. And I was like, no, the gap is actually widening. The gap between what life is and science getting to life, producing life in a lab or showing how nature could produce life, is actually widening, because they're finding out how much more amazing and intricate and designed life is, right? So first one is logical fallacies. Second one is you guys use accidents of the gap, that you say whatever you can't explain that nature could do, you just say, well, an accident did it, and science haven't found that accident, like producing functional genes and functional proteins. Next one is pain and problems. So you guys will immediately shift to, well, if there was a creator, why are there diseases? He was a bad designer because we now have diseases in our bodies and genetic issues, and all that. Why is there so much pain in the world, And then, I can't answer any other religion, but I can answer for Christianity. Christianity makes it very clear. And I tell atheists all the time, you clearly haven't read Genesis 1-3. Read Genesis 1-3. God made the world good with no pain, right? Adam and Eve wrecked it by sin. They're saying we want to do it our own way. We want to be our own gods. Well, guess what? You didn't design this universe. So when humans are the God of the universe, well, they just can't handle it. And it's going to function improperly. All right. And then if you read the last 3 chapters of the Bible, God is trying to get us back to a place where there is no pain, no problems, no tears. Right. So if you read that, and then you read the parables of Jesus, and he tells us why, man, let me tell you what, you read the parables of Jesus, he tells you why a loving God would send people to hell. It's so logical. And why there's pain in the world. It's so logical. But here's what I say to atheists. Take any car and wreck it. A wrecked car was still clearly designed, even though somebody wrecked it. So even though there's pain in this world, there's problems, there's genetic problems, there's storms, there's all these things that are wrong in our world. Well, that's not reason to not believe in a creator. That's just to either believe that God wanted it this way, right? You could be a deist. You could say that God started life and he just left it and said, I don't care, and just want to see what happens. Or, in Christianity, it's very well explained in the Bible. The first 3 chapters of the Bible, the last 3 chapters of the Bible, and the parables of Jesus explain this very well, why there's pain in this world, even though God is very loving and all powerful. And, I forgot what paradox it's called, but it's the one, if God is all powerful, he can't be all good. And if God is all good, he can't be all powerful. Well, if you read the last 3 chapters of the Bible, it explains it. God is being patient with us. He could easily kill everyone because we all cause pain, but he's being patient with us before he finally takes care of evil and lets those of us who want to do things his way into the new earth. The last one. All right. So first one, logical fallacies. Atheists use logical fallacies to avoid dealing with the science that points to God. They use accident of the gaps. They assume scientists will figure out how nature accidentally produced genes and proteins. You guys are kidding yourselves. The next one is they point to pain and problems. They say, well, if there is a creator, he did a bad job. That's easily explained. We wrecked it. That's what the Bible says. I can't speak for any other religion, that even a wrecked car was clearly designed. The last one is, you can't prove you're God, is what scientists or atheists will say. And it's like, well, a lot of people do try to do that, but I can't do that, right? And I admit that I can't do that. And that's because God made it that way. So I'm trying to convince atheists to leave atheism because it doesn't hold up to science when you look at genes and proteins. So I'm asking you to just admit, according to the evidence, that we were created by something. I can't prove to you a specific God. And I made a post about it yesterday. So you've got 2 options. You can either be a deist, and you can say that God, there is a creator, it created life, and it just left it. It created a universe and life within and just left it. And it doesn't interfere with our daily lives, right? Or you could be, or this God that did create us is testing us, right? If there's no hardcore evidence that if God's not like, you have to believe in me, here's the hardcore evidence. I know Aaron Ra and other people are like, well, he should have put this in the Bible and we would have known it was true. God is clearly, either deism is true or God is not trying to force you to believe in him. God is testing you to see who will seek him. There's a great verse in Jeremiah that says something to the effect of, when you seek me and you seek me with all your heart, you'll find me. Or if you seek me, you'll find me when you seek me with all your heart. So the New Testament makes it clear. The Bible makes it clear. Again, I can't speak for other religions. Christianity makes it clear that God is wanting to be, he created us for a relationship with him, and relationships are not forced, and God is giving you the ability to leave him. Right? And so God isn't forcing your faith, right? That's not even faith. Faith is when you believe something that you can't prove. You believe it's reasonable, but you can't prove it. And that's what God is asking for of the Bible. The Bible says without faith, it's impossible to please God, right? So this pleases God. And this is how relationships work. Relationships work with trust, that I trust my wife. Even when we get in arguments, I trust her. I know she's a good person, and vice versa. Relationships are built on trust. So that's all it is with God. He's not forcing you to trust him. And I believe faith and trust can be interchangeable. They are a little different, but But anyway, so those are the four things. So may this not be you. Don't use logical fallacies to avoid science. Don't use accidents of the gap to avoid the clear truth that nature cannot produce functional genes or functional proteins. Do not look at the world and say, well, there's pain and problems, so clearly there was no designer. Well, that's dumb. A wrecked car was clearly designed. And then just because somebody can't prove their specific God doesn't mean we don't have a creator, because either deism is true or the God that did create us is testing us to see who really wants to be with him. So I hope that helps. I hope you guys are honest with yourself. Again, read the New Testament for yourself. Some of you might be rejecting Jesus because of the crazy Christians out there. And there are crazy Christians. There are false Christians out there. There are crazy Christians out there. All of us are imperfect. The best Christian is imperfect. I love chocolate, but I don't reject chocolate because of horrible people who eat chocolate, right? So don't reject Jesus because of horrible people who say they believe in him, all right? So may you read the New Testament for yourself, and may you be honest with yourself.